Let's just picture this for a second. What if the internet just vanished? Like
Hmm.
completely gone from our lives, no more scrolling, no quick searches, no constant connection. What would uh, that digital void actually feel like? Well, today we're diving deep into this really fascinating experiment. Someone actually did it, cut off all online access for 30 days. Yep, swapped their smartphone for, one of those old dumb phones, just those calls and texts, and pulled the plug on the Wi-Fi an entire month, totally analog. And this isn't just some like quirky challenge. I mean, think about estimates say around 210 million people globally are dealing with internet addiction. So this experiment goes way beyond just missing out on memes. It's a
Right.
real test of survival, and it gives us this raw look at how much we actually rely on tech.
Exactly. And what's so interesting and what we'll really get into is that this deep dive goes beyond just the surface stuff, the inconvenience. We're going to look at the real truths that came out of those 30 days, the hidden costs, the unexpected impacts. It really makes you, the listener, stop and think about the bigger picture in your own life.
Right. So our mission today is pretty clear. Unpack this whole journey from that initial, probably quite jarring shock, all the way to the big revelations, personal and societal. We want to pull out the key insights about, well, our relationship with technology. And just to be clear, everything we're discussing comes straight from the source material excerpts from 30 Days Offline, a digital detox experiment. We're sticking to what that tells us. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Day one. You can almost feel it, can't you? That automatic muscle memory grab for the phone first thing in the morning, only for the person in the experiment to find this, well, basically useless brick in their hand. The source says the silence was just deafening. No pings, no alerts, no news feeds. Must have been incredibly stark.
Oh, absolutely. And the source points out how quickly this thing they call disconnect anxiety kicked in. It wasn't just boredom setting in immediately. It was actual irritability, feeling mentally sluggish, foggy thoughts, and even those weird phantom vibrations, where you swore your phone just
Oh,
buzzed.
yeah, I know that feeling.
Right. It's a really vivid example of how deeply the internet gets woven into um, our basic cognitive functions. It essentially becomes a kind of cognitive crutch.
A cognitive crutch. Can you maybe expand on that a bit? What does that really mean in practice?
Sure. So think about how our brains naturally work. Solving problems, remembering things, navigating. Historically, we relied on internal memory, maybe maps, actively searching for info. But now, with instant search, our brains kind of just offload those tasks. Remembering a fact,
Yeah,
calculating something, finding directions. We just reach for the device.
makes sense.
So we become less practiced at doing that mental work ourselves. It's like if you use a physical crutch for a sprained ankle, yeah, it helps you get around, but the ankle muscle itself doesn't get stronger until you actually use it again. That initial mental fogginess the experimenter felt, that's basically the brain realizing its crutch is gone.
Got it. So the crutch was kicked away. And then by day three, the source says that initial shock kind of morphed into something else, just extreme, profound boredom. Like imagine eating a recipe or trying to figure out where something is without Google Maps. They talked about digging out dusty books or garage hunts. It sounds like it tested patience in a way most of us just aren't used to anymore, with everything being instant.
Exactly. And it really highlights how that almost compulsive urge to just look it up has changed how we even approach basic tasks. But here's the hopeful part. The turning point the source details around day 7.
Yep.
That mental fog actually started to lift.
Really? So soon?
Yeah, relatively soon. Those phantom buzzes faded, the constant mental chatter quieted down, and just doing something simple like reading a physical book for a while seemed to bring back their attention span, which had felt totally fragmented before.
Mhm.
There was this emerging sense of optimism, of clarity. It really suggested,
Yeah.
a recovery was possible from that initial messy withdrawal. The notes from around July 5th really emphasized that shift.
Okay, so moving past that initial hump, week two sounds like where adaptation really started. A new routine formed.
Yeah, the source mentions things like taking more walks, actually cooking from cookbooks, imagine that, and making real intentional phone calls to friends, replacing the digital noise with, well, real world stuff. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If you tried something like this, what unexpected good things might actually pop up for you?
Well, a key thing the source analyzes is the benefit side. This new rhythm definitely fostered more mental clarity and conversations. They became deeper, more present.
Because you're actually there.
Precisely. Now, they absolutely acknowledged missing social updates, that FOMO feeling was real, but the trade-off was striking. Productivity apparently shot up. Tasks that used to drag on, interrupted constantly by notifications, were getting done by lunchtime. It was like reclaiming huge chunks of mental energy and time that were just being nibbled away before. It wasn't just doing more, it was doing it with real focus. That's fascinating. So it wasn't just about cutting things out, but actively bringing other things back in. The source mentions going back to these old ways, like physically going into the bank or reading a newspaper from start to finish, described as both charming yet frustrating. I can see that charming in theory, frustrating when you just want to get something done fast. It forces a slower pace.
And that slower pace, as the experimenter noted around that time, seemed to reveal a life that felt richer, more deliberate. It really pushes us to ask, what's the actual cost of our constant connectivity? Are we swapping depth for speed without even realizing it? And what does that mean long term, for a society that seems to value instant everything over maybe slower, more thoughtful ways of being?
Okay, now this is where things get really interesting, moving beyond the personal. Week 3. The experimenters start seeing their own journey through this wider, sort of global lens. And it forces that big question, what if everyone did this? Not just one person choosing to disconnect, but the whole world all at once for 30 days.
Yeah, and the core realization that hit them, according to the source, was pretty stark. Their own offline experiment was only really working, only thriving, because everyone else was still connected.
Hmm.
Think about it. Remote work, online education, supply chains, critical infrastructure like power grids or financial systems, they all run on the internet. Take
Right.
that away. Everything just stops.
Right. The source doesn't mince words about the implications of a universal cutoff. It wouldn't be some peaceful retreat. It would be economies grinding to a halt, schools shutting down, emergency services completely breaking down, basically chaos, not calm. The dependency is just too deep now.
And it brings up a really nuanced point about mental health, too. So yes, the experimenter felt better without the constant digital noise and, frankly, misinformation. But if everyone went offline, suddenly you could see traditional information gatekeepers, maybe state media, single news outlets gaining way more power. You might lose the diversity of voices and information access, flawed as it is, that the internet provides.
That's a really critical point, the double-edged sword.
Exactly. It's this incredible tool for connection and knowledge, but it's also created this massive, almost invisible global dependency. For literally billions of people, the internet isn't a lifestyle choice, it's a lifeline. For work, for education, for basic services. So the very act of choosing to disconnect, like in this experiment, highlights a certain privilege, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get to the end, day 30, the finish line. How was the experimenter feeling then?
The source describes this profound sense of calm, like really noticeable improvements, better sleep, less general anxiety, feeling much more connected to just reality, right here, right now. Sounds like a complete reset.
It does, but then comes the moment of truth. Reconnection. And it wasn't gentle. The source uses the term digital storm.
Yeah. Imagine turning everything back on and just being hit with this wall of sound buzzing, notifications flooding in, emails piling up instantly. It was overwhelming. And that overwhelming moment was actually the revelation. It starkly showed the sheer amount of noise and chaos they'd just been living with, enduring daily, without even fully realizing it before the detox. The contrast was intense.
So faced with that digital storm, what was the big takeaway? What change did they decide needed to happen?
The clarity was apparently crystal clear. Things had to change going forward. It wasn't about staying offline forever, but about setting firm boundaries. Things like no phone in the bedroom, scheduling specific offline time every day, deliberate choices.
So taking control back, moving from being passively swept along by the tech tide to actively steering the boat?
That's it, exactly. The fundamental lesson wasn't just, can you survive? It was learning to wield the internet as a tool, consciously, intentionally, rather than letting it be the master. And what's really insightful from their final thoughts was realizing the addiction, as it were, wasn't necessarily to the technology itself. It was more an addiction to the distraction it offered.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. Using it to dodge boredom, to avoid sitting with uncomfortable thoughts, to fill every single silent gap with noise. The goal became reclaiming control over attention, time, and ultimately their own mental space.
So wrapping this up, the big takeaway from this deep dive seems pretty clear. Yes, you can definitely survive 30 days offline. But the real win, the insight that matters, it's not just about surviving the silence. It's about consciously reclaiming control over how technology fits into your life. It sounds like the experiment proved that the truly meaningful connections, the deeper experiences are often waiting just beyond the screen, a truth maybe worth disconnecting even for a bit to rediscover. So maybe a little challenge for you listening. What about trying a small step, even just a screen-free evening this week? Or maybe a weekend digital detox. See what happens, what you notice. And hey, if you agree or maybe disagree with our take on this deep dive, let us know. We genuinely love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below. Also, if you found this valuable and you're looking for more great insights like this to, expand your mind, definitely check out Mind Expansion Daily. You can learn more there. And while you're thinking about it, please do like and subscribe to Mind Expansion Daily for more deep dives like this one.
And maybe just one final thought to leave you with. Considering this dual nature of tech, amazing tool, Potential Master was just one small intentional boundary you could realistically set today. Something to make sure the internet is working for you, not the other way around. Seriously, think about it. How could reclaiming even a little bit of that control really change your day-to-day reality? Something to mull over.